Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Mr. Ross, congratulations to you and to Hillary and to any family member that may be here or may be watching today's hearing. I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful that you are willing to take this upon yourself. The article that you referred to, based on the questioning from Mr. Sullivan, that you wrote on your 4 platforms for economic growth, and you mentioned regulatory reform. And I thought about that a little bit. You said you weren't sure where the president might be on regulatory reform or what he's going to do the first days of office. Not knowing that, what would you recommend to him with your background and experience that would help immediately in regulatory reform?
Well, I think what we ought to do is to try to deal with things that really inhibit business and yet aren't all that important, a kind of cost-benefit analysis. The part of the CBO that reviews regulations is a very small department. I think it has fewer than 50 employees. So many, many new things that have been put in have never had a cost-benefit analysis. I think the majority of them, in fact, have not. It would be very useful to conduct that kind of analysis as part of the process for determining which things should be rolled back and which should be preserved.
So you don't have any specific recommendation at this point?
At this point, no. The president has not asked me for specific recommendations.
I appreciate your comments, though, on cost-benefit analysis. I've been arguing for that since I've been here in Congress, that any new regulation that comes out of this committee or any other committee should have to be run through some cost-benefit analysis in order to be assured that it isn't costing more than the benefits of that particular regulation. Let's go down to the balance of trade. You mentioned that as your 4 steps also. What's your thought process here on increasing trade?
A couple of things. One, in general, I think it's easier and quicker to negotiate bilateral agreements than it is multilateral. And my concerns about the multilaterals are not that there's anything inherently wrong with them, but as somebody who has negotiated a lot of transactions, I can tell you, the more complex the environment within which you're negotiating, the less likely you are to get to a sensible result. Because what really happens is several things. Say you're negotiating with 12 different countries. You go to the first one and you want some concession from them. They say, yes, we'll give you that concession, but we want something back. So that takes a little nick out of us. Then you go to the next country, you negotiate with them, they take a little nick. Keep doing that 12 times, you get a lot of nicks. And what happens is the other countries get the benefit of things they didn't even ask for because you had to give them to someone else. So I think that's a fundamental concern. Second,
Mr. Ross, I hate to cut you off because I don't have a lot of time, but am I to take from that you weren't impressed with TPP?
Initially, when I read the first press reports of TPP, was very favorable toward it. As I delved into the thousands of pages of document, I came across some things that I felt were not consistent with what had been advertised. I'll give you a couple of examples. One is the concept of TPP was to build a wall around the countries that were participants. But in automotive, for example, they permit more than 60% of the content of a car to come from outside TPP and yet have all the tariff benefits. That didn't strike me as the world's best idea, particularly from the point of view of protecting the automotive industry, because in automotive, about 70% of the jobs are in the parts suppliers, not in the OEs.
Again, sorry to cut you off, but I only have a couple seconds here.
I'm sorry.
Would that argument be that you would then oppose a 35% tariff as the president-elect has proposed on foreign cars?
I think that it's a complicated issue whether you should have one flat tariff on everything or whether it should be more tailored to the individual situations. And I think
Do you support tariffs?
I think tariffs play a role both as a negotiating tool and, if necessary, to punish offenders who don't play by the rules.
Mr. Chairman, my time's run out. Thank you.